Hi there, this is Louise Jackson. I'm here at the UC Riverside's Alumni Association, and a warm welcome to those of you who have joined us already. We're really excited to have Payal Beri with us today, and she's going to be speaking about the topic of networking, specifically how to build connection and convert those contacts into advocates. And I'd like to warmly welcome you with us, Payal. It's really great to have you in the session.
Thank you.
I am the director of the Alumni Career Program here at the Alumni Association, and I would like to, invite you to take a look at our website. It's alumni.ucr.edu. Take a look at the career page if you're interested in today's session, want a recording, or are interested in any of our other programs. Please take a look at that. A reminder to our participants, if you have a question in today's session, please take care of that by filling in the Q&A box that's at the bottom of your screen. We really want today's session to be interactive. The goal of the session is to really help you get your career questions answered. So please make sure you give us those questions. Try not to wait till the end of the session. We want to get those questions answered. Make sure we get to them. So if you have a question, get to it as soon as you can. I'd like to mention that Payal is one of our preferred partner career coaches. I would encourage you to take a look at our Career Coaches Network on our website. She provides discount career coaching to all of our alumni, so please take a look at that. She is an expert in her field, has got extensive experience in career development, runs her own practice, iConnect. So please take a look at her services. She really is a great connection to have, as well as being an alumna of UC Riverside. And without further ado, Payal, we'll let you take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Louise, for that. Welcome, everybody. Really excited to have you all here. So first, I wanted to just make a quick introduction about who I am so you get to know what the power of networking has done for me. So when I was at UC Riverside, I was one of those students that didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. And I had an inkling of knowing what my strengths were, where I was excited about, but didn't really know what steps to take at first. I graduated with a film and visual culture degree, hoping to, work in the entertainment industry, but I quickly realized that that's really not where my calling is. I found it always really rewarding to work with others and to promote others and to see the success of other people. So I got my master's in clinical psychology and became a marriage and family therapist. I moved to New York and worked as a clinical therapist for a few years. What I realized, though, as I was working as a clinical therapist was a lot of times my mind started going more inwards, where I realized at the nonprofit, there was so much turnover, there was retention issues, there was burnout going on. And I noticed myself working a lot with my peers and motivating others I was working with on how to make sure that we don't get burnt out. That's when I started realizing that I love the world of psychology and I'm definitely in the right field, but maybe not in the right industry with it. And this is where the power of networking really spoke to me, because before I made another step towards changing and transitioning my career, I wanted to make sure that I was taking the right steps. So I started letting everybody know that, I think that I needed to make a transition, and I know I want to help organizations and companies build out their learning programs and see, new hires really be set up for success. And my friends started introducing me to other people that worked in human resources and worked specifically in talent and management. So by having conversations with my friends' friends and reaching out to others, I realized that industrial organizational psychology is where I truly belong. And that's where I went back for my PhD in industrial organizational psychology. And now for the last 5-6 years, I've been really building out my practice. I've been working and I've helped organizations build out their learning and leadership programs, their onboarding new hire programs. And, and I also do a private practice of career coaching as well. And so that's a little bit about me and my, career journey to where I'm at today and how networking has really helped me. So today, the purpose of today is what we're going to do is, first of all, everyone talks about the power of networking, why it's so important, but we're going to really look at the statistics behind it. Why is networking such a powerful tool? And, you know, networking is great, but you have to also know what's your purpose. So we're really going to go into how to help you understand and set an intention on what's your purpose behind networking. And once we've covered that, we're going to move into the avenues of networking. So where can you go and network? How do you meet people? And how do you really attract the people that you need within your community? Through that, you know, once you know where to network, well, how do you communicate with your network? You know, networking has made out to become such an extrovert's world, and sometimes introverts get lost in it because they feel more connected talking to that one person or two people and get overwhelmed with a big crowd of space. So we're really going to talk about addressing how to communicate with your network regardless of what your personality style is. And then, you know, once you've built that relationship, how do you follow up? And how do you make sure that you sustain that relationship? Because when you have a one-time conversation, that is not what's going to help you. What's going to help you is getting to know the person and building a relationship. And that's where follow-up comes along from. After that, you know, we'll leave some space and room for questions. And I believe Luis is also going to be able to have your questions throughout the entire webinar as well. So the power of networking. You know, career advancement is as much about who you know as what you know. And what I will say is that more than it's who you know, it's about who knows you. And what I mean by that is there is a large group of people that, you know, if you have it in your pool and you know them, but you want them to know what you do. You want them to know what your passion is, what your excitement is. And the reason for that is, you know, 85% of jobs today are filled through networking. And, you know, gone are those days where you can take that paper and go in cold calling. A lot of organizations are getting about 1,000 job applicants for one job. So sometimes you get lost in it. I do want to apologize. I'm right in the heart of downtown, so you are going to hear some sirens coming around, so apologies ahead of time. Anyways, you know, when you're talking about applying for a job, you want to make sure that you know somebody in there, because the only way to get through is by networking nowadays. You don't want to be lost in that 500 applicant pool. The next thing is that when you're actually having your first impression, it's said that 72% of people really base it off of your handshake. The reason is 80% of your body language is the way you communicate. So when you are having your handshake with someone, you know, have it with confidence, because you want them to know that you are confident about what you're doing. You're approaching them with the energy of that, you know, I am here and I know what I'm about, and so I'm ready to meet with you. You want to make an impression on them. There's the rule of 7. The rule of 7 is that it takes about 7 interactions, whether it be through email, whether it be in person, a phone call, for someone to really remember you and make sure that you're stuck in their mind. So that's when I go back to, it's not as much about who you know as, you know, do they remember you? And so you want to remember that, you know, whether it's through the first time you met them, you follow up with an email, you follow up with having coffee with them, you know, you send them an article, whatever it is, we will cover that through the webinar. But the rule of 7 really applies here. So these are some things to take into consideration as, you know, why networking is so critical in your career advancement. Now, you know.
Oh, I wanted to mention, thank you so much for giving us some of the data on this. I know that referrals are growing, and I really appreciate this, because really what this does is define for our alumni that what networking is. So a lot of our alumni may have heard, yes, you need to network, but are not quite sure how to go about doing this. So really making this actionable in terms of really putting that networking stage prior to, for example, the job application phase. I know I get calls from alumni saying, hey, I've submitted so many job applications and I've heard nothing. And that goes to the you're referring to of, you know, some job applications are receiving thousands of applicants. I know an HBR article once likened submitting an online job application is likened to throwing a paper plane into the universe and hoping it's going to stick. You know,
right.
And so how we do that networking. So really think that this is great. The rule of 7, making sure you're having those 7 interactions so that you're top of mind.
Yep. Exactly, and that's so true. You know, it's really daunting to go through the job interview and the applying for jobs. I mean, really, applying for jobs is a full-time job in itself. And the reason for that is that you can't just go in there and submit your resume. You have to tailor it to the job, and then you want to go and, you know, dig in your research. And to be honest, nowadays, organizations expect you to have researched them. They expect you to follow up with individuals that are in the company, because that shows your sign of eagerness and your sign of really investment, that you're excited about that company and that it's not just another job for you.
Absolutely.
So, you know, when we move into what's your purpose, the reason for that is you want to think about, you know, are you going into networking for a career advancement? You're ready for the next role. You're ready to get a promotion, whatever it may be, or a different company. You want to jump to a different organization. So is it career advancement? Is it just simply to expand your network? Because it's always great to communicate with like-minded people. You want to, you know, be in an environment where you're constantly learning, so you're able to apply the newest trends and newest learnings to your work. New business. If you are in practice for yourself, you know, the one thing is that you constantly have to build new business, and that's another purpose for networking. You're transitioning careers. You know, let's say you were in education and now you're moving over to marketing. How do you make that transition? A lot of times, you know, if you were to submit a job resume without any kind of a network in-house, they're probably not going to look at your resume, because they're going to, you know, people tend to be very pigeonholed, unfortunately, and look at it in a very linear way that, oh, this person only has educational background. But through networking and by reshaping your story, you're able to actually make that in. And I can share with you how I did that when I switched from clinical to organizational psychology. And then relocation. As you're moving, you know, I moved from LA to Chicago, another time where I had to really network and show people that I was serious about getting my job and starting my career in Chicago. So when we're talking about your purpose, the reason is that when you're going into conversations with people, whether it's at an in-person networking, whether you're sending your first initial message on LinkedIn, you want to have the intention of what you want out of this conversation. You know, a lot of times these conversations are, especially the initial ones, you're just introducing yourself. You never want to ask for a favor in the first interaction. And the reason for that is they're going to think that you're just trying to use them versus actually interested in building a relationship. So when you're looking at this, you know, and you're having a conversation initially, you know, you're going to say, you know, like, hi, I'm Payal, and, you know, I really love what you've done with your career, and I'm looking to transition my career from education to marketing. I'd love to just talk to you and find out, what are you doing with it? How did you get to where you are? Because I really would love my path to follow yours. And, you know, people love to talk about themselves. So use that to your advantage. Use that as especially when you're transitioning careers or you're trying to move to the next level, the people that you're networking with typically will be at the level you're trying to move into. So you have to approach it with your passion, your excitement, but also from a place of, I'm here to learn and I'm here to gain your experience and expertise. And that's what you want to think about every time you're approaching a conversation, is what is my intention? Because a conversation could go in a completely different direction. So you want to know, how do I guide it back to what I need out of this? You know, what's the keys to networking? And when we talk about that, what I mean by that is, you know, what are some of the simple traits that you need to make sure that when you're networking, you're really coming across as being honest? And when I say about being yourself and being authentic, that doesn't necessarily mean that come in ripped jeans and, you know, wear your PJs. And obviously you all know that. But what I mean is that if you know you tend to be a bit more of a formal person and that you prefer to be working in a more traditional firm, then the people that you should be approaching should be matching your style. Because there is when you're meeting with people that are more like-minded, you're going to have a better connection with them. You're going to have a better ability to build rapport. If you're someone that's more of a tech startup, you want to be able to be yourself in the terms of casual, you want to be able to use casual and informal language, then you should be trying to connect with people that are like-minded to that. Because the main thing is that, you don't want to just go into an organization where it's like, oh my gosh, I just need a job. I'm just going to get in right now. What you want to do is build a career in a place that you're going to be excited about going to work. And of course, no one is ever 100% every morning excited. But for the most part, you want to feel that I'm really building a career in an organization, in a place that I want to be a part of. And that's where nowadays a lot of organizations, when they interview you, they're really looking at your values and do your values align with theirs? And they take those seriously. So you want to see for yourself as well that, when you're networking with people, and let's just say for example, you see a job online posted for Google, and, you've been dying to work at Google, it's your dream job. Well, how do you go about that? Well, first of all, what I would always recommend is you look at the people that are on LinkedIn that's within that department, and you look at who resonates with you before you send a message to them. So be yourself means, really know who you are, what are your strengths, what are the things that shine about you that when people see you, they say, wow, this is what I think about, Louise, this is what I think about Payal. And the next thing you want to do is make sure that you're asking a lot of questions. And what I mean by that is when you're networking and you're trying to build that, you have to ask a lot of questions because you're trying to learn. It's your opportunity to learn from experts, to know, if I want to move to your level, what is it? What did you do? How did you do? What I would always do is prepare a list before you go talk to that person. If you're at a networking event, prepare that beforehand. Learn what the networking event is about and just have a list, even if you don't have the paper with you, but have it in your mind. What type of questions are you really looking for? That way, again, when you're setting your purpose of your networking and your intention, you have the questions that are going to guide you to get some information that you need. The other part is listen actively. A lot of times when people are networking, they just want to sell themselves. They just want to say, look at me, look at what I can do. Like you want me part of your company. But again, you want to listen actively because a lot of times what information you'll get from them are actually the key answers you'll need. So if you just ask those strategic questions about, how did you move from a junior position in marketing and, able to move to a senior director position with Pepsi, for example? What did you do? What were the skills that maybe I don't have yet that you think that I should learn? They're going to tell you their steps. They're going to tell you what certifications they got, what extra, steps they had to take. They'll maybe introduce you to other people or mention key people that were mentors for them. So you want to always listen actively to what these people have to say because that's going to be your clue to your next step. And the other thing is that, a lot of times people are getting bombarded with networking, proposals. They're getting messages left and right. They want to connect. And what they want to make sure is that you're not there again to just sell. You're not there to just say, hire me. So what you want to do is make sure you're a giver. If you know that there's an individual that you've been, networking with and they have a certain need to find, a certain person within their team, and you don't fit that role at all, but you have a friend that could be a great fit for that, introduce them. They want to know that you're not in it just for yourself, but you're really in it for the relationship. If there is an article that came across and you found it to be really interesting, share that with that person. Because again, the key to networking is building a relationship. You're dealing with a person, not a title. And you want to make sure you follow up. And, when you follow up is you always want to mention something that you had talked about that you could see that ignited passion in them, ignited excitement in them. So you want to follow up with something that they would also be interested in responding to you with. So those are some of the key traits, I would say, that are important to networking and when you're thinking about how do I, approach somebody. Moving on, where do I find my network? And really there's multiple ways, but today I'm going to really focus on two. One is LinkedIn and the other one is in person. LinkedIn, you really have to consider it to be your best friend. It's my best friend. And the reason for that, it's such a powerful professional tool There are thousands of people on there. There are articles, there's groups, there's so much that you can use it for, and it's your online branding system. You know, it's your profile, the way that you set yourself up. It's where recruiters go to find you. You know, LinkedIn is such a powerful tool, and I would say that majority of the people that I've met and built relationships with has been actually through LinkedIn. The next is obviously in person. There is nothing better than having an in-person, you know, first introduction meeting. So when you're at networking events, you know, the energy that you feel from someone, the vibe, you listen to your intuition. When you approach someone or someone approaches you, really try to look at their body language. You know, what are they saying? Who are they about? And feel that energy. And really, if you think about it like you're going on a first date or a blind date, and you're there trying to meet people, and really it's for your professional socialization, but you just never know that by that one conversation you have with someone, they might know someone really powerful that could help you out. And so, you know, when you're going to in-person meetings and networking events, it's really important to make yourself open. But again, I'm going to go back to, it's really critical to know what your purpose is. Whether it's LinkedIn or whether it's at a networking event, you want to know, what is my purpose for being here? You know, what is it that I want to share with them? So I'd like to first go into how to approach networking through LinkedIn. The first thing is your LinkedIn profile. You want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile, because that is essentially your face online. You want to make sure that, you know, instead of having the title of where you work, which is what they allow you to do on top, you want to put, what is it about you? So for example, for myself, you know, I have a career coach. I have, you know, talent management strategy. So I have some keywords that I know the recruiters are looking for, that I know clients are looking for, and that is what attracts them to my profile. You don't want your entire resume to be on your profile, but you want to have key elements, accomplishments, things that you have done in your career that could really speak to your strengths and who you are. The other thing is number of connections. LinkedIn really engages people and promotes you the more connections that you have. The more you're using LinkedIn, the more they, you know, introduce you to more people through their searches. The power number is 500. When you have 500 connections or more, after that, your ability to connect to the second person, third person becomes much more extensive. And also, when you're looking at the number of connections, LinkedIn stops adding more after 500. So after 500, it's just going to show 500 plus. And that also speaks volumes, because it shows that you have an expanded network for yourself. And once again, other people would be interested in networking with you. And there is more of your profile being passed around and, you know, being watched. And then I keep going back to revisit your intention to connect, because I cannot tell you how powerful this is. If you go into a conversation and you have an introduction, and regardless of the fact that you never ask them for a favor on the first meeting, but what you want to do is present with, you know, this is who I am, this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I'm excited about. You want to be yourself, you want to be authentic, and you want to be candid. You want to share with them what you're excited about, and then ask them a lot of questions. So when you're on LinkedIn, even in your profile, it's very okay to write about looking to build and expand my network, or transitioning to Chicago and looking to build my network within the city of Chicago. So people have an idea as they're reading your profile that what you really are interested in. And if it resonates with someone, I'm sure they're going to be contacting you as well. And you want to think about who is your target audience. You know, if you're looking, once again, to relocate and move to Chicago, then you want to start building your network. And for example, I'm in learning and talent management. So when I was shifting from LA to Chicago and I was in the midst of my relocation, I went online, I looked at all the job posts that were happening on LinkedIn, whether it's, I remember there was from GoGo, there was from, Pepsi, there was a lot from Walgreens, there was a lot of great companies. And what I did was I went on LinkedIn and I found the individuals that worked in those organizations. And I, emailed them and messaged them saying that, hey, I'm moving to Chicago. I'm in this field. I see that you work for this organization, and I'm really looking to build my network in the city. I'd love to be able to have a coffee with you, or, speak to you for 15, 20 minutes. You want to know who your target audience is. If you are looking to get promoted, and move to a different organization, same thing. You want to look at what kind of organizations do you even want to work at? Are you in law? Are you in insurance? Are you in accounting? You want to look at what are the accounting firms that I'd like to work in. If you want to go into consulting, and that's the target audience then that you want to approach. You want to look at those organizations that would be your dream organizations to work for, or even just, an organization that could get you into that pathway and that journey. And you want to start, looking at and searching for people. And the way you do that is you type in, for example, Walgreens. And then as you type in Walgreens, it will show you that, do you want to look at the people in Walgreens? So you go to that, and then you can really filter it for, whether it's marketing, whether it's accounting, and you can see who's in that department so that you can start networking with those specific people. And then, like I mentioned, sending requests to those contacts. So as you realize who your target audience is, you want to send requests to them. And, the main thing is you never want to send a blank post. You never want to just press connect. You always want to send a message to them that says, hey, I'm new here. I'm in the same field. I love what you've done. I'd love to connect with you. It's a simple thing. A lot of times, people will accept you even if you don't write a post, but it's always more personable if you send something and they know that you're not just another solicitor. And then, of course, interacting with your LinkedIn connections. So what does that mean? You want to make sure that if someone that you've connected with now is writing a post or has shared an article that you also resonate with, you want to comment on that. You want to say something to why you were inspired by that article or what it was in their post that, maybe you could share experience in that comment box. You want to start engaging with them in other ways besides just, emailing them only. So you're going to show that you're actually interested and you actually share a common interest in what they do and what they're posting. So that's another form of, how to approach networking on LinkedIn. Now, I wanted to share with you, there's 2 templates I've built. This is one of them, and this is actually one that I've used. And, I'll read it out loud and just with you. So it's, after they've accepted my LinkedIn connection, I would say, thank you for the connection on LinkedIn. I wanted to reach out because I really love what you've done with your career and in talent management field. I want to see my career path grow in a similar direction as yours, and it would be wonderful to connect. I feel like we have a lot of similarities, and it's just a great connect with other like-minded people. It would be great to chat over the phone for 15, 20 minutes if you have some time available. Also, if I can be of any assistance to you and you would like to connect with any of my contacts, I would be happy to connect you. What this says is that, I'm genuinely interested in just talking about our field and just sharing the newest trends. And you're not looking necessarily for, something out of them. And as I mentioned at the very end, that I would be happy to connect you with any of my contacts. I'm giving. And that is one of the key parts of networking, is that you want to show that it's, free for all. And the one thing to remember is with networking is that a lot of times people feel really protective over their contacts because they think that, someone else is going to go ahead and take my contact and they're going to get that job for me. But you always have to remember that there's enough work and there's enough people to go around. There's enough to share. And the more you share, actually the better you look and the better that, they're going to consider you. It's all about how you're perceived. So you want to make sure that as you're building your network, you're not shying away from sharing your contacts because, again, you never know who can connect you. And that person will always remember you. They will remember that, you know what, Luis really helped me with finding that amazing person. Sorry about that. But, Luis really helped me with finding that amazing person who filled that position and it made me look good in the organization, I'm really going to look out for her now. So this is one template that you could potentially use. I know Luis is going to make this available. So if you're trying to write this all down and don't have time, don't worry about it. You will have, you will have access to this webinar later as well. Here's another one. So this is when I was trying to transition to Chicago. And I said, thank you for accepting my LinkedIn request. I'm in the talent management and learning development field. I am always looking to meet like-minded HR professionals in the Chicago area. I'd love to connect with you to just engage in a conversation and build a connection. I can only imagine how busy you must get, so even 15 to 20 minutes would be appreciated. My email is, in case it's a better way of communicating than LinkedIn. Now, the reason I said this is because a lot of times people haven't actually paid for the premium on LinkedIn. So they might be able to read the messages, but they won't be able to respond. So if you give them another access and another resource for them to actually connect with you, then that is a great way for them to build a connection with you outside of LinkedIn. One thing I'll also mention is that, for out of every 10 emails that you send, don't expect that you're going to have all 10 people. You're only going to get upset by that. You want to really look at seeing that out of the 10, you might get about 2 to 3 people that respond. So that is why, reaching out to as many people as you can is really important. And letting them know that there's other ways to access you. And once again, it's really approaching this with that genuine interest in building a relationship with that person. So it's really important that when you research them, that there's something that they've done that really makes your heart skip a beat and gets you excited about it, because that's what you need to showcase when you're actually networking with them. Luis, did you have is there a question that you want to?
I actually have a question, and it's somewhat related to LinkedIn, but is actually also related more to career branding. One of our alumni, and maybe I'll just jump in, even though it's somewhat related to this. One of our alumni is asking if they have limited work experience, specifically a lack of internships. Could you give them some advice as to how they can promote themselves on LinkedIn? So I think we're talking more, career branding or even in person. And
right.
Prior to letting Payal jump in, I would encourage you to look at our website. We have a bunch of different career guides, resume guide, networking guide. It's all on there, as well as even this session is going to be recorded. So I'll let Payal take it away, but do look at what we have. We have a number of resources that may be helpful as well, in addition to Payal's response.
Thank you, Luis. So great question. When you feel stuck and you feel that, how do I actually brand myself on LinkedIn? Well, you can still write about what your strengths are, what you have been able to pull from previous experiences. What I would say is you want to engage with organizations that are in your industry. So, for example, I'm part of the Society of Human Resources Management in Chicago. I volunteer with them. I build network with them that way. So, when you're on LinkedIn, you want to share that. You want to actually actively start volunteering at organizations within your industry and participating in it, because that is, again, a place where typically a lot of, directors, VPs, or just anyone in the industry, this is where they build their community. So if you start volunteering with them, you're actually going to start meeting people that are in your field or the field that you're actually trying to even get into. And you're going to naturally build that relationship with them because you're volunteering with them, you're meeting with them on a weekly basis, you're going to events, you're participating in that, and you're building that experience. So that is something that you could then put on your LinkedIn, and you could share that as what your experience has been, even if it's free experience. And that's another way when you are communicating with someone on LinkedIn, you can mention that, saying that, thank you for accepting my LinkedIn request. I'm in the field of accounting, and, I'm a recent graduate from UC Riverside, and I'm really looking to build my career in here. And, I would love to have a conversation with you to know what should be my first initial steps. So that right there is showing your interest, you're engaged. If you want to mention something specific that you saw on their LinkedIn that I really saw how you transitioned from you were also a UCR Riverside alumni, or I saw that, you transitioned from a career into accounting. I'd love to know what additional things do I need to have in order to make sure that I can secure an internship. So you're always looking at, how to structure your conversation, again, based off of your intention and your purpose. And your LinkedIn profile can really be branded by, if you don't have that internship, go volunteer. Go find someone that you could shadow. If there is a consultant that you could say, hey, I will be a free apprentice for right now because I just need to build that experience, you will find someone that will take you on for that. Just those are certain other ways that if you don't necessarily have employment, you can find alternatives to build your experience. So this is actually a great segue into, networking in person. Now, we talked about what networking on LinkedIn looks like. I want to go into what networking in person looks like. Once again, I really do want to talk about whether it's you're going to a, women's leadership networking event, or you're going to a emerging leadership, or, UCR alumni networking event. Regardless of what it is, you want to know beforehand, if possible. A lot of times, these networking events will actually post who is actually attending. And the reason they do that is because they want you to follow up and see, is there someone there that you are interested in talking to? You want to know, who's on the panel that's actually going to be speaking at this networking event. Find them on LinkedIn, see what they're doing, Google them, and see if there's something that resonates about the people that are going to be there. So when you attend, again, you have a set intention, you have a purpose, you have a reason, and you know what your agenda is. So one of the main things is, what's your elevator pitch? And what we mean by this is, when someone approaches you and says, hi, so what do you do? What's your name? You want to make sure that you aren't, stumbling on this, like, oh, what do I do? Okay, well, I want to, you want to be confident in it, but again, genuine. So what I mean by that is, I'll again use myself an example. When I go to networking events, I'll tell them that, hi, my name is Payal. I'm actually I'm an HR consultant. I build learning and talent programs for different organizations. And I'm really here because I want to expand my network and I want to meet other people that are doing similar work with me, and so that we could brainstorm and get great ideas. So here I've shared who I am, what I do, and what I'm looking for. Similarly, if you were to go to a networking event and you could say, hi, my name is Becky, and I'm here because I just recently graduated and I'm trying to build my career in marketing or accounting or in law. And, I'm really looking to meet people that would be a great mentor, or someone who could really help me understand what my journey should look like. It's very okay to share that. And as you're talking to someone, make sure that, again, you are there to, of course, like, share your strengths, but talk from a place where it excites you. If there's something that you're actually really not interested in, be honest about it, because you don't want to be put in a situation where, people start thinking that, oh, Payal loves, analytics and data, which I actually really don't. So I don't want to then be constantly proposed with opportunities around learning analytics and, interpreting data. That's not where I want to be. I want to be facilitating. I want to be coaching. I want to be building those workshops and have somebody else do the data analytics for me. So what I want to be able to say is that, I really love facilitating. I love being in front of an audience. I love being a part of a team where we can create a program that helps engage the motivated individuals that work here. And, do I like data analytics? No. Can I do it? Yeah. But what I'm saying there is that, I have the key expertise in what I need to get done, but I'm sharing what I'm really passionate about. And then you ask them. The next part is, listen. It's the same skills as when you're going there, you share who you are, and then you ask them, so what about you? Tell me about, what do you do? What excites you about your job? What are you looking for? And if they're saying similar to you, like, yeah, I love, learning engagement, but I work with startups. And you say, oh my God, I love working with startups. And it's okay to share that excitement because you're genuinely interested. If someone says, I work with regulated insurance companies, you can say, okay, well, how's that? And if that's not necessarily your interest, you want to go in with building out what exactly is the group that you want to target. You want to focus on those people. So if there is somebody that's talking about, a part of what you do in the industry, but you have absolutely no interest in it, I would say still have that conversation because you just don't know who they know or you don't know how they're connected. But, and be interested in that, but then see like how you can help them. But I would not spend a lot of time because I'd want to then network with people there who are actually in my scope of work. So those are some key things to think about when you're in person. And when you're going in person as an introvert and you're overwhelmed by how many people there are, that is where looking up ahead of time who is going to be attending would be really a great service for you because, when you're at a networking event, a lot of times people are looking to have one-on-one conversations. And the great thing is that when you're networking, people really are trying to see, like, are you someone I vibe with? Are you someone that I can see myself having coffee with, lunch with? And so you're talking not a lot of small talk, but you're actually getting in deep to, like, what are your interests? And, so if you know ahead of time who's going to be there and you can talk to them, then, I would always close a one-on-one meeting with saying, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn, or I would love to give you my information, or, you have an email. It'd be great to meet up for coffee. So that way, even if you're leaving the actual conversation to move on to somebody else, you're leaving with their card, you're leaving with a way to follow up with them, or asking them if it's okay for you to follow up with them. I'll give you an example. About 2 years ago, when I was starting my own consulting firm and my own practice, starting to go to a lot of these networking events, and I was relatively new to Chicago as well. And I attended a networking event, which was about women in technology and innovation. And I didn't know anybody there except for the one person who had invited me to come. And I'm listening to this panel, the panelists, and I had looked at them ahead of time, and but I didn't really know anyone. So as I'm listening to this one woman speak, who's a co-founder here for a nonprofit and highly respected in the Chicago, founder startup space. She works specifically with a target audience of, individuals who come from low-income areas that aren't necessarily given the same type of experience or, opportunities that other people may have. So she actually gives them an opportunity and invites them for a 2-year program in her company to, be interns, apprentices, and then lead up to having, an 85% job placement statistics with them. So when I heard her speak, having, been in mental health, having been in clinical, and having actually worked with that same group of population that she's working with, but she's now doing it by training them and everything. And it resonated with me. It was, none of the other panelists really resonated with me. So as she was walking off the stage, I darted for her. I had a smile on my face and I just walked up to her. She saw me coming. I put my hands out, shook her hand and introduced myself. And I said, hi, I'm Payal. I heard you speak up there and I instantly had to come talk to you. You really resonated with me. And I'll be very honest, I had not heard about your organization until you just spoke about it. But the reason it resonates with me is because the work that I did as a clinical therapist before and now as a learning and talent management professional is exactly the population you work with. I'd love to have lunch with you or coffee. Would that be something that we could do? And the fact that I was just so eager and so excited and I wanted to learn from her, she was like taken aback a bit and was like, yeah, let's do it. And she goes, why don't you add me on LinkedIn? The next morning as my follow-up, I went on LinkedIn, I messaged her and I said, it was lovely meeting you yesterday. I had a great conversation. As per your request, I am sending you a LinkedIn message for us to coordinate a time for us to have coffee or lunch. What would work best for you? And the reason I posed it as that is because, me mentioning to her that it's as per your request is because it's reminding that I'm not just another person who's trying to get in. I want her to remember me, and I want her to remember our conversation. So through that, we set up, and it took about, we had a few lunches, a few coffees over 6-7 months. And then, after we built a relationship of really understanding what got you to open this organization, why do you love it? Why am I where I'm at? And really, again, building a human contact, human connection with this person, I then was able to say to her, I really love what you do. And every time we talk, I get so excited. And I really view you as a mentor. How can I come and work with your company? How can I come and be a part of what you're doing? And that's where then she allowed me to come in and actually, facilitate a few workshops for these emerging leaders, which is great. So this is just, an example of how going in person with an intention, with an understanding, but also knowing to have patience, and also knowing that, what you're expecting isn't going to happen overnight. You want to build a relationship just like you do with a friend, just like you do with a significant other or with family. You want to just build a relationship. And through that, your passion, your excitement is going to come through.
So Payal, we had a couple of questions come in, and I want to be cognizant of time, given that we're getting close to the end here. So maybe I'll jump in if it's okay, or would you like to talk up a little bit on your end and then we ask our questions? I'm happy either way. Maybe I'll just jump in with the questions then, just to make sure we get to them. So I have a question from an alumni about locating conferences, in-person networking events. Do you have advice as to how to find those in terms of what channels to look at? And, I won't answer the full question. I'll let Payal take it away, but I would say that the alumni office hosts a number of different networking events. So I would encourage you again to look at our website. We really are looking to branch into industry-based connecting. So you are UCR alumni, but what are some of the industry connections we can facilitate? So take a look at our website to see if you can find some of those, and then I'll let Payal answer the rest.
Yeah, that's a great question. To be really honest, there's a few things you can do. What I do personally is just go on Google and I look on, if you're in social media, for example, look on social media, digital media, conferences, networking events. And eventbrite.com is a great place to go where you can filter the city that you're in. You can filter is it a networking, is it business, is it personal, what type of a networking event you're looking for. And it will actually give you a lot of, events that are going on in your city and dates and everything. If you're part of organizations, so I'm also part of an organization called SIOP, Society of Industrial Organizational Psychology. So when you become members of these organizations or you go on their websites, usually they have a section that says meetings, and under there, they'll have annual conferences or they'll have local chapters. And again, I really, really emphasize a great place to network and a great place to have these is to join these organizations that you are in the field for. And actually, through that, you are attending these local chapters, you're going to attend, whether it's a state networking event or national networking event, conferences. So those are some really great ways to look at it.
Absolutely. And I would encourage you, there's another platform called Meetup.com, I believe. Meetup.com. There's a number of those out there, so take a look. There's really, especially in the gig economy that we're entering into, everybody and anybody is trying to make these connections, and it's available if you just do a little bit of digging online. So the next question is from an alum who needs some advice. They graduated with a degree in humanities, so probably from Chad. But they're really trying to make a segue into entertainment. Do you have any advice in terms of steps they should take? They're considering grad school. It's a very long question, and potentially I would encourage you a coaching question that may be better suited to a one-on-one interaction. But would you like to answer that in terms of making that career transition from humanities into entertainment?
Sure. Again, the thing you want to think about is entertainment's a really big industry. So what exactly within entertainment are you looking for? Is that something that you're still exploring? Is it something that are you trying to make it as a writer, director? Are you trying to be actually in finance, but just in entertainment? What is it exactly that you're trying to, look into? If you're still exploring what that looks like, again, I would start talking to your friends. I would start talking to, people that you know. I would go on LinkedIn and start looking at people that are in the entertainment industry doing specific jobs that you are really feeling pulled towards, and start messaging them and asking them, saying, I'm interested in the entertainment industry. This is what I'm thinking about. I'd love to talk to someone who's an expert, who's been in it for a while. I love what you've been doing. And, if we could just have a quick 15, 20-minute chat for me to really understand what that would look like if I was to make that transition. I really, really stress that going into conversations, looking and as what you are, is that you're looking for guidance. You're going in there honestly, not trying to necessarily sell yourself, but sell yourself in the sense of being like, hey, I really need some help here, and I think you would be a great person for me to get some guidance from. So that honesty is going to go a long way.
Absolutely. Payal, would you like to, tie up? I know we probably still have a couple more slides left. Would you like to?
Yep, sure. So I actually just have one more slide, which is about following up. So the key things to do is email them. Make sure that within 24 hours of meeting the person, of connecting with them on LinkedIn, you email them. You make your presence known that, hey, I remember you. As soon as you go to a conference, anything, get their card. And whether, if they prefer phone, find out what they like to communicate with. Is it LinkedIn? Is it their personal email address? Is it a phone? Because you want to connect with them in a way that that they're going to respond to. The next is, initiating that phone conversation, having a 15, 20-minute talk, which usually goes into about 30, but you always want to say 15 to 20 because it feels less and it doesn't feel like they're taking up too much of your time. But if the conversation goes great, then you really, it ends up going longer anyways. And in the end of the phone conversation, again, you want to say, I had a great conversation. You have your list of questions that you've asked in the phone conversation. And from there, you say, if you live in the same city, you say, I would love to take you out for coffee or lunch to further hear more about this, because I don't think this one conversation is going to be enough. I really love what you do. Be honest about it. If it's someone out of state, initiate another phone conversation. So that's where then you meet them for coffee and for lunch. And again, prior to meeting them, remember what you talked about in your phone conversation when you first emailed them, the first interactions. If there's things that you could bring to them and say, hey, I found this conference. I don't know if you'd be interested in going, but maybe we could go together. If it's a networking event, something that that they would find value as well. And use that lunch to just talk about the industry. Just talk about what is it that excites you? What is it that you want to learn from them? And, and then share articles, share, like I said, networking events, share information with them, introduce them to someone that I remember you spoke about this, and I actually know someone who does that work. I'd like to introduce you if you're interested. So show them that you're really interested in them as a person and their interests as well. And then, request another coffee. Like I said, 7 interactions is what's going to make them really remember you and engage with you. And that is why it's also that critical and important to keep it real. Be yourself, be who you are, because it's, you're really in it for the long haul. It's not, as it's one of these sides, it's a lifestyle, not a diet. You're not looking to network to just get into a job. You're looking to network to build your relationships constantly, because you never know at what point in your career you're going to need these people. Be curious, be generous. The more you network, the better it is. There's right over here, Dunbar's number of 150, meaning that it's realistically, you can really only keep about 150 people in your mind to have like genuine connections with. So be really smart and strategic about who your audience is and who you really want to maintain that connection with, because a lot of coffees and lunches otherwise. But you really want to be strategic about who you're talking to and investing your time in. So thank you so much, everybody. If there's other questions or if you have time for it or not, but I'm always happy to talk to anybody that has further questions, that's interested in knowing more about how to expand their career or how to transition. It can be really daunting and it can be really nerve-wracking. And regardless of how of an expert you are, it's always nerve-wracking. So you're not alone in this.
Thank you so much, Payal. You've really given us a phenomenal session. We really value having you with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank
I would
you.
encourage all the alumni on our call. Payal sessions recorded. We're going to make that available to you. Please also reach out to Payal. Again, like I mentioned at the outset, she is a preferred coach. That means we've vetted her. She does a phenomenal job. She's also a fellow alumna with you. She has been through this. She's trained in this, so please feel free to reach out to her for her services. She provides a significant discount on her coaching practice to our alumni who are interested in her services. I would encourage our alumni who are interested in furthering their development in this area, specifically in LinkedIn. On May 8th, we're going to be having a session on maximizing the power of LinkedIn, also with our alumni speaker. And so I would encourage you to sign up for that session as well if you're interested in the topic. And again, thanks, Payal. We're going to sign off now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for today's session.